Stephanie, welcome to Women Investor Wednesdays. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I love your tagline, Flippant Empire. We're going to get all into that and learn about that. But before we do, I just want to tell people, in case they just showed up on this podcast and like, what is this woman doing? 5 years ago during COVID, I learned that of all of the investors in commercial real estate, only 3% were women. And of that 3%, 50% are people who inherit real estate or women who sign on their husband's guarantees on deals. So that means that, like, I'm part of 1.5%. I thought that was terrible. So I started interviewing my friends, asking them, who are, by the way, in commercial real estate on a day-to-day basis, are you investing? And they're like, yeah, we invest in the stock market. I'm like, the stock market, like, this is free legal insider trading. Why are you not investing in this thing that you do 50 hours a week? And they're like, well, I don't have $1 million. I go, okay, you don't need $1 million. Well, it's risky and scary. So is the stock market. So I kept asking them. And finally they said, well, we don't know any other women that are doing it. And I went, yes, that's because there's only 3% of us. So I said, this is the power of one. I can solve this problem because I'll find women who invest and we'll have a conference. So I had a virtual conference and now we've had 3 live conferences. Next month is our 5th. And I'll put people on stage that can share their stories. But then I realized I only have 250 women every year at the conference because we like to keep it small and intimate. So I figured, let me do a podcast so that I can get 52 women a year, once a week, and start letting the world know that there's more than 3%. So welcome to Women Investor Wednesdays. And we want to hear about your story. So start at the beginning.
Okay.
And you look so young. So how long have you been doing it?
So I'm in residential real estate primarily, and I've been a real estate investor for 10 years. So yeah. And can
I ask how old you are?
I'm 38. I'm almost 39.
Okay. So you started when you were 28 or 29.
Yeah. 28.
Wonderful.
Yes. And so I grew up from, a modest family. I'm from Canada originally. I live in the US. Now I've been in the States most of my adult life. And I grew up hearing about real estate, specifically like larger multifamily. My dad told me to get rental properties. We didn't own rental property, but that was like the path to wealth. And but we didn't have any money. And I cleaned up horse poop. It was funny. A friend of mine and I had a live call similar to this. And we both were working on farms picking up animal poop. So apparently it's a good path to.
It's fertilizer for investing.
That's right. Yeah. So, well, you got to start, everybody you start wherever you start. Right. So, anyway, I didn't see a future, obviously, in what I was doing. I fell into real estate and I just immediately saw the opportunity. So I got in, it was 2015, and we were buying packages of foreclosures, a small firm I was with. So there was just 3 of us. And we were buying foreclosed properties all over the country and primarily flipping those. And that's how it all started. I started my first local flip in 2016, and it's just built from there. I've been building my Flippant Empire since. So
how big is the empire?
So my husband and I own 24 rental units now. And so we scaled that up in about 3 years. We bought 29 properties in 3 years, all single family. And I got my real estate license in 2019. So I ran a brokerage or a small real estate firm as well, and been flipping properties. So in total, I've done over about 200 flips across the country in my career, while building that portfolio and doing some other things. So,
so I want to go back to the first one. Can you remember the first one?
My first flip?
Your first investment, like the first rental, or the first time you did you do it by yourself? Were you married? Did you have a partner? Like, how did the first one happen?
Yeah. So besides the firm, I was working with and buying the foreclosures. My first flip I did, I had a partner. And so I had no money. I didn't have any experience. But I learned, right? Listened to podcasts, learned how to do deal analysis, find a distressed property, learned how to comp properties.
What podcasts did you listen to?
It would have been Bigger Pockets, I think, for the most part. I just listened to,
Yeah.
and then and that would be more tactical real estate. In addition to starting to listen to some more growth focused podcasts and that sort of thing. And
how did you find the partner? So obviously, am I right that the partner had money?
He didn't have that much money, actually. He had a lot of experience.
Okay.
But he was sort of my source to money. And so I found him because I was doing some bookkeeping for a local construction company, and I found him, and I think he realized I was I was a bit savvy and willing to hustle and work. And so gave me some more opportunities in the real estate space. So that's how
was the first deal a house?
Yes.
Do you remember? So your deal was he was going to put the down payment. You guys were going to get a mortgage. Did you flip that one? Did you rent it? What was the structure of that deal?
Sure. So he sort of mentored me. So he brought the experience. I found the deal. I managed the project, designed it, etc. He essentially raised the money. So we did form an LLC. We got a hard money loan together, and then we got a gap partner or lender for like the down payment in that. And for the most part, I've always structured my deals that way. So everything I've done, I've always gotten 100% financing since then.
Wow.
And when we flipped it, of course, we just split the profits and then continued on from there.
So was it a 50-50 even split with him, or did he get more because he taught you?
No, 50-50.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And no money. And all of your properties, you've never put any money in?
Correct. I mean, we've probably put a little bit in, or like floated operations, etc. But for the most part, like all of my flips, I've either done with a hard money lender and then had a gap lender, so 100% financing. And then even with our rental properties, we like at this stage now, I have private money lenders I still use who fund all of my deals 100%. And so just continue that way. At first, it was just getting a small amount, maybe, in residential, of course, just 20, 25 or 50K for that gap, for that down payment, and then using a hard money lender to finance the rest. And then just kind of continued from there. Eventually, with experience and relationships, I got private money for 100% financing, which is just easy. So
that's amazing. And so how many of those people do you have at the ready? If you like now, do you buy portfolios or do you do one-offs? Like what's the system now?
Yeah. So still just one-off flips for the most part, residential. And I have I have probably 3 core private money lenders that I use, and who I don't feel limited by capital. So,
yeah. You said you do them all around the country?
So I'm still flipping locally now. I had started when we started, I was buying packages of foreclosures. And so, we were buying the portfolio, we were buying a package from the bank in various states. I ended up staying local after I started flipping myself, and just stayed in my local town of Aiken, South Carolina, and Augusta, Georgia. So I'm in those 2 markets. I scaled that up, was selling real estate. I had my daughter, and about a year after I had my daughter, I sort of scaled back a little bit, focused a little bit more on coaching. So Flippant Empire is actually my coaching program, helping others build their Flippant Empire. Similar story to you, right? Like I saw when I first started, I wanted to help female real estate agents get into real estate investing. Similar thing, right? Like you're selling residential real estate. So
you should be investing.
Right? It was the same thing. Like you have all of these resources, you have the knowledge, you have the expertise,
right?
Most of which you could leverage to create more partnerships, to raise capital, and all of those things. I'm sure it's transferred the same way in commercial. And so that's when Flippant Empire was built. So I scaled back my own investing to focus a bit more on the coaching. And this year I hope to scale both.
That's great. Well, that's great for the audience because I always tell everyone, I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to push you. I want to encourage you. I'm not going to teach you. So I love when I have women that come on that are teachers and coaches and have programs, because they all say, well, if you won't, great, thanks for encouraging us and motivating us, but now what? So where can people find you the best? I'm going to put it in the chat.
Sure. So Flippant Empire, at Flippant Empire is my Instagram handle. I'm pretty active on there. I also have a couple of communities on School, and I can share the link with you as well. And so Flip and Launch is a free community that I have. So anybody could come in. It's, again, my focus is with fix and flip and rental properties, but anybody can come and join. And then I have a program on School as well, if people are looking for a little bit more hands-on mentorship. So
that's amazing. So you said that now you guys, you and your husband have 24 rental units.
Yep.
So you're not, so those you didn't flip, are they long-term rentals, short-term rentals?
All long-term.
And are they all in South Carolina or Georgia?
Yep, they're all in our local market. We're in a really great price point. So we utilize the BRRRR strategy.
Can you tell the audience what that is?
Sure. So we bought the property. We bought a distressed property. I always mix up the R's. We bought it. We renovated it. So through renovations, we of course forced appreciation. We found a long-term tenant. We went back to the bank and were able to refinance the property and then take out our initial investment so that we could repeat and do it again. And so while utilizing private money lenders, we were able to do it a little bit faster. So we did 29 doors in 3 years because we had private money. So we weren't capped by like the cycle of capital. We had capital we could deploy. So,
and how did you find the private money lenders?
Well, one of my private money lenders, I wouldn't suggest anybody does it this way. Earlier in my career, we've been working together probably 8 years now. I found him on BRRRR, and he was a lender. He would share, value on BRRRR platform. And I reached out to him because I needed capital. And he explained to me I had to put $10,000 down on the property. He would fund the rest, but he would take title to the property. And I was like, okay, this is really stupid. Like, I'm giving the guy title to the property. I'm giving him my $10,000, but I didn't feel like he would, I didn't think that he would tarnish his reputation just for 10K, right? So I did this. And anyway, so he's one of my lenders now. So I found this random person on the internet. And
thank God. I'm like, is this going to go bad? This story?
No, it went really good. It went really good. And so I still work with him today. So he's one of my private money lenders. He does 100% now. And he actually told me he did this with operators all over the country, fix and flippers. And he said I was his only investor that he'd never met in person, which is funny. We still haven't met in person. And then another was a referral from a flip friend of mine. And then I have a handful of people that I know personally who have invested some funds for us.
So how were the interest rates with private money lenders 4 years ago versus today? I mean, I assume they climb just like the regular markets. They don't.
It stayed the same. Our one lender, he increased his rates a little bit. Like he went from 2 points. So typically I pay my best rate with my private money lender is right now it's 3 points. So 3% of the total principal amount, 3 points and 10% annualized. I pay all of that when I sell the property. So I don't have any upfront costs and I don't have any carrying costs, which make the cash flow component of all of this much simpler. And so he's my best rate. And then my most expensive is 6 points and 12%. And that stayed the same. And I have another one who's like 5 and 10. So those are like my 3 core private money lenders who sort of do it kind of professionally. And then if you're borrowing from like friends and family, you could probably negotiate some better terms. But so
you've never wanted to do the bank route.
I have like with a local like credit union bank or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you could get 6% and 1 point, but it takes much longer and you don't know if the appraisal is going to come in. I mean, it's risk versus someone that is a surety.
Right. So Typically in with the residential is most conventional lenders aren't going to give you a loan for those distressed properties, or they're going to require more money down and that sort of thing. So
Got it.
it's a little bit more challenging. Like often you can't get lending with those types of banks. Now,
Gotcha.
sometimes you can through like a 203K loan where they're giving you some rehab money, et cetera. But there's just some more restrictions in the residential space. There are hard money lenders, which have sometimes better terms than like my private money lenders. Maybe it's 3 points and 12%. But it requires a lot more. There's a lot more documentation and it's a bigger process. The draw process is much more difficult. So with my private money lenders, I can send them an email on Thursday and we can close Monday kind of thing. So it's just
Amazing.
speed and convenience for me that I enjoy working with them. So
How much work do you do on a property? Like what's the biggest rehab or reno that you've done?
the biggest one I've done, I think it was like a $250,000 rehab. I do not do well in in the luxury space. Like, so my ideal project is I'm selling it at or under the median home value. So like in my market, I'm selling it at or under like 250,000. And then I want to do like 30 or 40,000 in rehab. 50, 60 is okay too. But anything above that and getting into luxury properties, I've never done very well. It's not my niche. So I do what works well for me, and those little base hits are good. They're faster, they're less complicated, you know.
And do you have a team, like a reno team that you work with?
Yeah, we have a handful of crews that we've worked with. There's sometimes that's the hardest part, I think, to all of it is the contractor. Managing contractors as a woman, it's harder. You know, they don't want to take instructions from women, especially if they think you don't know anything.
Right.
When they realize you're signing the checks, sometimes it works out okay. But yeah, we have a handful of crews that we use, some key trades that I've used for a long, long time. And then usually those handymen, painters, there's a bit more turnover with them. So
When did you decide to stop flipping and just do the long-term rentals?
well, we're still flipping. So I still flip actively today. We've actually slowed down on our rentals. But so I still thought when I was in the real estate space, and when I first started flipping, of course, I was just buying myself a job. But I still thought I needed like 20% down to buy a rental property. And so, you know, I was like, okay, well, where am I going to get the 20K or 30 or however much I needed to put down on a rental? It felt like a, you know, kind of a bigger investment or cash injection from me. So I never pursued rental properties because I still didn't feel like I had the cash to do that. And then when I discovered the BRRRR strategy, and the BRRRR strategy is essentially you're just flipping the property into your portfolio. So instead of taking the cash and getting a paycheck or whatever profit, you're keeping it in equity. And so when I understood that, and I was like, oh, well, I've been flipping properties for years, then, you know, we started this cycle. And I told my husband, I don't think we were married at the time, but I said, like, this is our retirement. Like, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
He didn't believe me. He was like, he never believes me. I tell him all my ideas. He usually comes around, but, and so he wasn't in real estate. But when we got married, we each had a house. And so we sold his primary. At first, he said, I'm going to hold this house forever. And I was like, no, we got to sell it. And this is what we're going to do. And so that's how we started doing the rental properties. So I made him read the book. He ran the numbers and he was like, okay.
And then the cash flow helps obviously with the lifestyle, right? I mean, that, you know, you're going to continue to, so you're continuing to do some flips and you've slowed down on growing the portfolio. Is the plan to grow the portfolio bigger or?
Yeah. So, when we first started, so we bought our first rental and it was like right at COVID. Like COVID was just hitting the country like crazy, right, in March of 2020. And we were going to closing, and I was like, you're hearing stories of people who their tenants weren't paying, and we're like, oh my God, what are we doing? But anyway, worked out fine. And so we were buying these properties. I was selling real estate, I was flipping properties, and then I was working on these BRRRRs. My husband had his job. So we weren't looking to keep this cash flow or live off the cash flow at the time, which gave us a lot of, relief. We wanted about $300 or $400 per unit. But what it did, and we got a 4% commercial loan for each of these properties. So we had a 10-year 4%. So our cash flow wasn't great, but our principal buy down has been huge. And what it's done to our equity and our net worth has been huge. So that's what we did. We went through that process. We bought the 29, and then we decided to pause and optimize. So we went back and looked at what we had. We had a small, like 4-unit, like a little apartment, and we decided to sell that. It was just a bit of a headache. So we slowed down, we optimized. We've still been flipping, but what that's done is it's built our net worth through building the rental portfolio. And then while we were flipping, it was bringing in the cash to live off.
Right. And the 29, did you buy in one portfolio all at once? Oh,
one at a time.
And you're still doing residential real estate also?
I'm not selling. After I had my daughter, I slowed down from selling real estate. It's could be high maintenance. I had a great team, but it's high maintenance. So I got out of that. We're still flipping. We had our portfolio, and I'm looking to purchase. We're not really buying any single family rentals, but I'd like to purchase. One of my personal goals is to purchase like 100 units in the next, 12, 24 months, something like that. So
yes, I want you to do that too.
Yes. In a transaction, I'm like kind of tired. I'm like, the idea of like adding more units one by one. I'm like, okay, I've been there, done that. And so I'm going to take everything I learned in residential. I mean, all of the foundations I feel like are the same, and just apply it to commercial. So.
For sure. I mean, one of the women that spoke at my conference, I think year 2, year 2 or year 3, she had bought 4 units and then 8 units and then 4 units and then 8 units. And I said, okay, well, next year at the conference, so you're at, whatever she was at, 30 units. I said, how many units are you going to have when you come back next year? And she said, 50. I'm like, 50, you need to have 100. And so the year later, next year, I said to the audience, who remembers Natasha? What was my goal for her? And they're like, 100 units. I'm like, Natasha, how many units do you have? She was 108. I said, because if you can buy 4 and 8 and 4 and 8, you can go buy 30. So I think the next property she bought was 47 units. And she was able to partner, she syndicated with the women in the room that she met at the conference.
Yeah. So
it was like an all-woman investor group.
Cool. Very cool.
And now I think her last deal she was looking at was 60 units. It's just, and they're all in one piece of property. So, and she manages them herself, but pretty soon she's going to have to probably hire a property manager or third party.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so in your coaching program, what would you say are the top couple things that you coach most on?
Most of my investors I'm working with are just getting started, right? So it's really it all comes down to mindset. And even if you're talking about somebody going from like 1 or 4 units to 50 or 100, it's all mindset, right?
Right. Women don't think big.
Yeah. And it's like, why not? So most of the people I work with, it's just them getting like the reps in and getting in the door. Deal analysis is a big one. Putting in offers. I think there's a lot of people want to know like what the perfect path is, like how is this all going to play out? And we don't get to know that, but we can, we're making calculated risks. We know that we can handle anything that comes up. Like I have a lot of confidence in what I do in the residential space because I've done it and I've dealt with every problem that I've faced, and I'm going to face more. So I think it's a big confidence thing. I like to say that they can borrow my confidence. They feel better when I say that, because I'm like, we'll just deal with it. Something happens, you just figure it out. So it's like putting in the reps, getting the first deal, and really seeing the potential that they have, and the power behind real estate. It's just so powerful, like how much you can do, whether you're starting with like a single family rental property or commercial property or whatever. It's just like the sky's the limit. And that's what is so cool about real estate for me. That's why
Absolutely. So what would be one piece of advice you'd give to someone that, wants to get in, but, has a little fear? What's your one piece of advice?
I would tell them to find somebody who has done what they want to do and just do what they say. Like blinders on, just do that one thing and just get proof of concept. And you just got to get in the arena, and then you can decide later. I think there's people who are out there who they hear about people with 1,000 units or like these massive portfolios, and they want to go there. And it's like, well, just do one. Like you might get in and you might say, I don't like owning property. Like I'd rather be an investor, or I'd rather do this other thing. But once you get in, there's so many different ways you can go through, but just get in and get proof of concept and then move forward.
I love that advice. I think that's so true. A woman I recently interviewed, she's an investment sale broker. And so she sells apartments. So she lists them and sells them for clients. And she says, I don't want to be a GP. I just want to be an LP. And she's LP'd with 10 different apartment owners and in 10 different deals. And, 50,000 here, 100,000 here. And she's just investing with them. Some become her clients. She ends up selling some of them, but it's awesome. And she's like, she has a 3-year-old. She has a brokerage firm. She goes, I don't have time to be the GP, but I want to grow a portfolio. And this is the way I do it. And there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you get in, then I think you realize all of the other opportunities that are available. And so if you connect with, going to a conference like yours or listening to podcasts, connecting with other people in the space, and you realize, you can sort of forge your own path that makes the most sense for you, your strong suits, what you're good at, right? What you enjoy. And then you can build your empire that serves you and serves others, right? So.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy I got to meet you and that you got to share your story with our audience, which is very impressive for a young woman that you are. So go get that 100 unit. I know you can do it. Keep us posted.
Thank you. I'll report back next year with my count.
Exactly. Nice
Awesome.
seeing you.
Nice seeing you. Thank you.